Did I make you co-host yet, Morgan? You're co-host now.
There we go.
Here we go. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Good to see you here yet again. Welcome to those who are returning and also the new and friendly faces. Good to have you here. As always, we'll let folks roll in for a couple of minutes before we get started, and then we'll roll right in. And I'll do a quick intro, and then we'll get rolling. Right, admit some more folks. And we have this. All right. Okay, let's hit it. All right, I'll give let me spotlight myself and Morgan and our main guest for the day as well. Okay. All right. And Morgan, if you just watch the waiting room and start and make sure to let people in. So, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, helping each other and creating an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Master Classes, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. And you can find out more about that on pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And as often, not as always, but as often, recently, Morgan Cowell is joining us as a co-host. He's out there in Nebraska building his bustling piano business, and he serves as co-host here sometimes. And today's guest is Hannah Beckett. So welcome, Hannah. You know, we're going to dive into your story here in a minute, but if you could just take a moment and just kind of maybe give a little meet you at a soiree introduction to yourself and what you've been up to. You want to take a minute for that?
Yeah, meeting at soirees is tricky unless you're with a bunch of piano technicians.
Yeah, meeting at the
what do you do
at the at the at the dinner table after.
Like, please don't ask me what I do. Please don't ask me.
After the PTG meeting,
yeah. So I think I've gotten it to the general phrase at this point in my life. I work in the piano industry is the way that I'll mostly serve it up. That involves being a technician, owning a consumer guide to piano purchasing and selling and maintenance, running a training platform for technicians, and generally trying to keep up with anything piano related. So that's what I do now. I guess that's how I would say it at a soiree, and then usually people will say, "Oh, great," and then change the subject.
All right, nice. Yeah, I know what that's like. Yeah, it's like, sometimes you share that you're a piano tuner, and people are like, "Is that even still a thing?"
Or they're like, "Oh, so you teach piano?"
No. Yeah, exactly.
Is this your full-time job?
Yeah. Okay, but what do you do besides that? Yeah, I get that a lot.
And even on top of that too, you face something similar that probably only a handful of people can identify with, is that I have an online education business for piano technicians, right? And they're like, "Oh, so you teach piano lessons," right? It's the same.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same.
The technician just goes straight over the head.
Yeah. But anyways, this is great. We can commiserate and share notes and stuff like that. So that'll be really fun. As a foundational question, maybe we'll see how it works. Maybe Morgan and I are alternate on this sort of question delivery. But as a foundational question, I just kind of like to dive into, how this all started for you. Maybe even just getting into pianos and music in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I guess, piano started when I was 6. That's when piano lessons started for me, mandatory in the family to learn. Hated it at first, and then got better teachers and better pianos and fell in love with it. And started teaching piano lessons very, very young, just pretty casually to neighborhood kids. And then, from neighborhood kids, it grew into like a full studio. And so by the time I graduated high school, I was basically working full time as a piano teacher. So at that point, I kind of had to evaluate the way everyone does when they graduate high school is, do I drop this gig and go get a degree that's going to allow me to do exactly what I'm doing? Because I really wasn't interested in much besides music.
I just want to pause you a second, because I don't know if we fully absorbed it or you even fully threw it out there. You built like a huge piano teaching business in high school, right? Like this was not just like, like a couple neighbor kids on the weekend or something. Like,
right.
Can you give us a sense of the scope of it? Yeah.
Pertinent information. I was homeschooled, so I could do what I wanted.
Gotcha.
So I taught during the day and I did my schoolwork at night. I've always been a night owl. So, I'd have 6 hours of piano lessons and then just spend the rest of the time trying to catch up on schoolwork. So, I had 45 students, and I was also, I play the harp as well. And I had about 10 harp students. And I was gigging for weddings and various other events on the harp. And it was a crazy time.
A burgeoning career. And so were those half-hour lessons or hour lessons?
Some 45 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Right. So that's a good 20 to 25 hours a week. Yeah.
And again, I'm not teaching to like a really advanced crowd. It was more just like a mom who has 6 kids and wants all of them taking piano lessons. So, it was enough to get them through, to the next level. And I decided, at that point, it doesn't make sense for me to go into a lot of debt when I'm making a good amount of money right now. But I also had a sense that I wasn't going to be a piano teacher my whole life. There's a level of patience that's required with working with very young children that I was running through pretty quickly. So I started just evaluating, what else is out there that I can do either on the side so that I don't lose my mind completely, or maybe even change careers eventually. And piano technology was just kind of logical. I loved pianos. I was already teaching. I have a very natural mechanical curiosity. I was the teacher who would open up the piano and show the kids, kind of like, okay, you push the key and the hammer goes forward, and very basic things. I knew nothing, but I knew enough to be curious. And so when I had the local technician come tune my studio piano, I asked him, kind of some probing questions about the industry and how he would suggest going about learning. I'd found North Bennett Street School online, and I didn't really want to drop everything that I was doing and go to Boston for a year. And I'd seen a couple of other online courses, but I'm not much of a digital learner. I'm really, I need my hands. I need to be doing it and being shown what to do. I guess that's kinesthetic learning. So I kind of thought that wouldn't go well for me. So his answer to me was pull up a chair, and he allowed me to pepper him with questions while he was tuning my piano, which was a Yamaha E1. I'm sure he could have tuned it in 45 minutes. And he stayed with me for 3 hours that day, showing me things and answering all the questions. And so then I invited him to tune another piano that I did my recitals on. And he invited me to join him for the full time again. And then at the end of that, he said, I really think that this could be something for you. And if you want to apprentice with me, you can. I just finished a previous student, so I have some time. And I really owe him my entire career because he worked with me for 2 years. And he's probably the most generous person I've ever met as far as his time and willingness to encourage young people. So
Very
that's
cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the headline.
Wow.
And what was his name again?
This was Bryn Ulisnik. He's a technician in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where I grew up. He's a Steinway trained tech. At the time, he was the university technician for UNCW, and he's an oral technician. So I learned all orally for the first 2 years. I didn't even know an ETD existed until way too late. So yeah, that was his skill set. And he's still tuning orally and just loves doing that.
What's neat about that story is that I think all of us get people that are curious, right? They want to learn more, and they want to train. And some are around for 20 minutes, and some are around for a lot longer. And it's just neat how those, the small kind of one-off just conversations can now lead to you having, these 9 different businesses that, are also training a lot of other people. So that's cool how that snowballs.
Yeah. He approaches people with an openness that I think is really necessary. But he also knows when people aren't serious, and I think he did put me through several tests early on to see if I was willing to go, the whole way, because you don't want to necessarily waste your time. So, that was fabulous. There were a few other technicians studying with him too. So we did some group lessons and things like that. And that really, I think, taught me the value of collaboration in technology. And I think we're all prone to working alone and living in our own little worlds, because that's just how the industry works. But the times that I was able to work with other technicians, I remember just being really beneficial in hearing other perspectives, but also just gaining the energy of working with other people. It helps you keep going. I think it's really important.
Yeah. So then how did you launch with your own sort of business then? Did you work with somebody else? Did you hang your own shingle?
No,
what did you do?
So I was in Wilmington doing both teaching and technology at the same time. And as I gained confidence with my abilities as a technician, I would gradually taper off my student load. So I did that for a while, and then I moved to Northern Virginia and just started cold turkey from North Carolina to Virginia. So that took a little while, but this area is very dense, and thankfully it didn't take too long to build a nice clientele. And I had help from other technicians and dealers and things. So yeah, I've always been independent in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you hopped in with the guild then not too long after that, because I remember seeing a lot of articles in the journal, did a lot of testing and stuff, and you were kind of there behind the scenes.
Yep. So after I studied with my first mentor pretty intensely for 2 years, and then I took the exams from the guild, and kind of realized that I knew nothing in the process, at least as far as my technical skills go. Our focus had been tuning primarily, and we had done enough technical training to get me through the exams. But when I passed, I was really unsatisfied, because I knew that I didn't understand basic regulation concepts. So I kind of cozied up to Ed Sutton, who's also in North Carolina. He lived about 4 hours away from me. And the same thing, he has the same really generous, open spirit, and just took me under his wing and started bringing me on board for the technical exam processes, because he's an examiner. And so I worked with him, and in working with him administering exams, I really cemented a lot of the things that I did not understand at all. So I owe him a lot for that. So he kind of got me in the exam arena. I'd been in the guild for, since I started technology, because my first Bryn was the president of the Greensboro chapter at the time. So, I was very familiar with it. So yeah, I got through the exam process. I became an examiner. And then around the same time that I was doing that, because Ed was also on the journal staff at the time, I think I had sent him an article that I wrote, and I always really enjoyed writing. During school, that was kind of my other passion, and so he brought me on board with the journal staff. So I did that for probably maybe 4 years. That's how I got involved.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very active, which is really great. And I guess when you're homeschooled, maybe that, I mean, it's probably not, you can't make a generalization, but it sounds like it's part of what prompted you to kind of like just get out there and do things and be independent.
Yeah, I think I've always liked doing things. Even as a child, I wasn't really someone who enjoyed playing. I was mostly into productivity, and I've always been a little bit hyperactive in that regard. And I think the need for education, I felt it. It was, I mean, pianos are nuts. There is a lot to making a piano a really functional instrument. And I think for every bit that I learned, I understood that there were 3 times more that I didn't understand. And so that kind of gave me a drive to really try to fill in as many knowledge gaps as I could, which when you don't have a set schooling curriculum can be really difficult. So I think there are aspects of me being homeschooled that helped me, because I am used to kind of going out and finding information on my own, as opposed to having kind of a set process where it's handed down.
A little known fact, I was technically homeschooled for 1 year in, I think it was 8th grade. Yeah. And unfortunately, really what that amounted, well, there was a fortunate and unfortunate side. Unfortunate side is my mom was not my teacher. Like, she didn't know how to teach or anything like that. So basically, I was just out of school and on my own, and like going to the library, and like reading, it was a good year for, I actually picked up piano skills quite a bit that year. So
really?
I, kind of similarly, I got to spend a lot of time in front of the piano, practicing, taking some lessons, composing, and then just kind of learning, one-off things that I was really interested in. But yeah, so I just have a little glimpse of homeschool.
Yeah. Who knows? That sounds like a really formative year for you.
I was homeschooled until high school, so we're all in a similar canoe here.
Yeah.
I think what it does is, when you have to be so kind of self-reliant on yourself, one, that just builds up your skills, but two, when you find someone that's knowledgeable, you just hang on and you absorb all you can.
Yes.
And really, that's just a fast-paced trajectory to really just kind of success and just competence, just being around competent people and just hanging on until they have to pick you off and, throw you out.
And cut you free. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's an interesting thing, and I think we've probably addressed it here and there in some of the episodes. But what I've found is there's those folks that are so knowledgeable. And I've encountered over and over again in hosting these classes, right? So knowledgeable about something, all they want to do is talk about it. Right. So all you have to do is hang out with them, and you can't shut them up. I hanging out with David Stanwood. All he wants to talk about is action geometry. Like, it's just that I'm constantly just flowing out of its face. I hang out with Sally Phillips. All she wants to talk about is like fine piano preparations. We're out for breakfast, and it's just pouring out. So if you latch up with the right person, it's almost like I could see they enjoy it. Like, they enjoy being appreciated. They enjoy sharing their knowledge. They enjoy, having some useful place to put it. Right.
I think it's also important to acknowledge the work that previous generations have done in opening up piano technology. I mean, it was really closed source for a really long time. And I know that was something that Bryn really struggled. I mean, he had to fight for the education that he had. And so it was a top priority for him that he make it more accessible to the people who came after him. So I think that's common in the industry now. And, hopefully that will just be a distant memory as generations keep coming. But that could also contribute to their love of passing on knowledge. I know for me, because I also, I didn't have to fight for education necessarily, but I did have to work for it. And there's pros and cons to that. You know, you value the information that you get a lot. But the cons are sometimes you don't have it when you need it and you do dumb stuff. So for me, passing on information in a way that makes it more accessible is really important to just cleaning up kind of the piano industry at large.
Well, and you're doing something about it in multiple ways. But let's talk about the Pro Ptn app and that whole thing, because I had heard about it. I had seen it kind of on Facebook, but then I was up with Greg Chang doing a poly class, and he told me a bit more about it. And then I looked it up and went, "Oh wow, look at all this stuff." And I think I signed up 20 seconds later. So yeah, tell us about
sweet.
it.
Okay, thanks, Morgan. Yeah, Pro Ptn is such a passion project. It's really everything that I needed when I didn't have it, and so it was easy to formulate the concept because it was like, man, something that is online, that's accessible, where I have a job coming up. I may be vaguely familiar with the job, but I can't quite remember the steps, or maybe I don't have all the tools, or I'm not sure if my tools are the right ones. Something that is online that I can look up quickly to get the information, maybe see a few videos. That would have boosted my confidence like tenfold going into the field and having to tackle, you know, a ton of pianos that, you know, I've never really worked on before. So I had been thinking about this for a while. Greg and I had been kind of talking about the frustrations that we were encountering and having. We both have mentees and students, and we were just talking about how little information there is for that formative time when you're just getting in. You know, there's no start to piano technology education and there's no end. So it's really hard for us to communicate to our students, you know, here's how you go about learning piano technology. So we'd been discussing this for a while, and then in early March 2020, we just felt like a real urgent need to do something about it. So I had started kind of playing around with website ideas, and then March 15th, we had 6 weeks stuck at home where we couldn't leave. And so we just hit it really hard. We pulled in Kate Redding, who's just a fabulous technician. She's over at Winchester Conservatory doing their piano work out there. So we pulled her in because she gives us really good valuable insights into university work, which I haven't really participated in that. Greg has a little bit, but that's her primary job. So between all of us, we kind of, we have the universities covered, we have fieldwork covered, we have dealership perspective covered, and then we brought in some of our students too, because we were making this product mostly for them. And so they acted as our guinea pigs for while we were developing some of the articles and tutorials and things. And we would send it to them and be like, does this make sense? And they say, well, not really, you missed like 5 things. So, you know, that's part of the process that goes into all the content that we have on Pro Ptn is, you know, there's 3 of us looking at it from different perspectives. And then there's even more people doing it in the field. And most of the articles have just been shot while I'm already teaching the class to my students or while Greg's already teaching. And so, yeah, we're loving it. We published it, I think, June 2020, and we just, you know, we've been building ever since. I think we have like 100 articles up now, and we continue to publish new content almost monthly. And we have members. It turns out there's a global demand for this type thing because we have members on every continent. So yeah, it's been a joy to be able to have a resource like that, and to make partnerships too with other industry members. We've got, you know, some tool suppliers who have come on board, and, you know, we do product reviews for them. And that was a big thing for me. I spent a lot of money early on buying the wrong tools. There's a lot of very bad tools for piano technicians. So it was important for me that in all of our content, you know, we're saying specifically this tool from specifically this supplier, so that people can be financially smart, because it's expensive to get all these tools early on. And, you know, it's not necessarily as expensive as college, but there's still a need to be efficient. So
yeah, there's all those tools that are just like basically the price of being a newbie. You know what I mean? It's
you
like,
got to pay your dues.
oh yeah, you could drill. Yeah, you could bore, holes in hammers with this little thing that has like a couple of wing nuts on it or something. It's like, what?
My pet peeve. I hate that.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be interesting too to even just share the website with people and kind of walk them through it. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing? Okay,
absolutely.
Cool.
Let me pull it up. See if my sharing abilities pay off here. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Okay, now you do.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Pro Ptn here. So this is just our homepage. It's kind of an overview of what we do. One thing I didn't mention is if you're an enrolled student, we have an application that you can fill out, and you're able to have 2 years of free access. It's a membership subscription type thing.
And when she says enrolled student, she means like North Bend School, basically.
Yeah, like if you're paying, if you're paying money for education, then we want Pro Ptn to be a free resource.
I'll put you on the spot here. Would you extend that to people who are subscribing to piano technicians master classes? Is that fair?
I have to run it by my board.
All right.
Let me ask.
Well, we'll see about negotiating that.
Let me ask. Yeah,
sounds like a good deal.
Maybe we could come up with a deal.
We should have talked about that previously. I just didn't want to forget.
We should.
No pressure.
I did think about that this morning, and then I thought it's too late. We should talk about it afterwards. Here's some of our product reviews that we have. We also developed an app, which it's just the website, but a little bit faster than having to pull up a browser while you're in somebody's house. So let me walk you through some of our articles. I picked, so we were talking about like having the right tools for the right job. We have these kits that we've put together to help people kind of start amassing the right stuff. My computer is being a little bit slow right now. Let's see, let's go to the basic cleaning kit. Cleaning is like, every technician has their thing that they're kind of obsessive about. Mine's cleaning. I think that's just like fundamental piano technology is keeping pianos clean and operating well. So here's kind of me soapboxing why it's important to clean pianos. And then we've got a couple different vacuums that we recommend that are small and lightweight, easy to carry. I've got some demonstrations. Here's some soundboard cleaning options. So this is a video showing how to use the soundboard sweeper from Shaft. And then we also have the Spurlock cleaner set, which is great. The Spurlock can get in those little crevices a little better than the sweeper, but the sweeper is really fast. Corey key brights, just, other cleaning stuff, finishing pads, things that you should just have quick access to, suggestions on metal polishes, things like that. And then we've got, related articles down here. So
in this, what you're showing us right now, that would not be available to the public, but for the modest membership, it would?
Yes.
Or is this?
Yep,
okay.
Yep, it would, yeah. So right now we just have we have three sample articles on the homepage that are free that kind of give people a general idea of what we're about. There's pros and cons to charging a membership fee. For me, I'm really not a fan of advertising. So we don't make any money from our partnerships or anything like that. So the members are basically paying for a clean website and unbiased opinions, which I think is pretty important. Let me show you one of the regulation articles that we just did. We've got lots of different, some of these are really long, some of these are just tips. Oops, I may have passed it. Did I pass it? No. Sorry, my computer's being so glitchy right now.
Because you're on a Zoom call. Maybe you have to hop off that Zoom call and then you could.
I know. It's working so hard. Well, I don't know where it went. Hang on. Here it is. Pinning action centers. This one, for me, I started out with pinning. That was like my first shop job. It's pretty fundamental to develop healthy action centers. So this is just an overview of action centers. We've got kind of the flange part and things that are labeled. We're just trying to be really thorough with all of our content and recognize the places where maybe more information is better than less. Here's our very specific list of tools with the product reference, so you can just type it right in and get the right tool for the right job. Some videos on how to select a new pin, and then there's different methods people use. So that's one of the things that's important. I think between Greg and Kate and I, we all use slightly different methods for things, and there's no right or wrong necessarily. Certainly for some jobs there is, but for jobs like this, people sometimes are better with very specific tools like micrometers and gram gauges. Other people are very tactile. So we detail both methods so that people can figure out, what works best for their work method. Here's a chart on why these pins are a different size than their actual numbers, which is crazy to me.
Why not? Why not make it confusing?
Why not make multiple numbers for the same object? Makes me a little crazy. Here's demonstration on how to use a gram gauge. So, this is just kind of a general overview of all the content that we have. And,
yeah,
there's kind of
awesome.
no end to how much content you can put on here. There's like for every one article that we post, I think of 5 more. So
that's great. Yeah, no, it's great. It is good to have
grow.
a little bit of a tour, because I think,
yep.
Just jumping onto a site and not knowing everything that's there. It's like, it's like jumping into somebody's house, and expecting where they keep all the forks and knives and all that stuff, right?
Yes, so, very true.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
I know.
That's really helpful.
I know that sounds basic, but I'm so happy that the pictures are in color and are of high quality. Because if you look at some
that you have to be excited about, though.
You look at some of the standard literature out there, and it's these 1987 really grainy black and white photos, and you're like, oh, that kind of looks like a piano. So having things up close and
Well, like I said, I mean, this was low hanging fruit. Piano technology is at least 30 years behind the general tech advancement. So that was a big priority for me, because I did have to learn off of those black and white drawings and try to figure out, what angle I'm looking at this part from. So the beauty of being able to embed a video that can show you multiple angles, and it's so critical, and it feels silly to be excited about that in 2022, but